The prophet, the great leader himself. Did you know that Donald Trump means herald of the world ruler? Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Donald.
What? It's Irish or something.
Yeah, it's Scottish. Donald means world ruler or world wielder.
Okay.
And Trump means the trumpet sound. So it's translates to like the announcement, the beckoning, or the announcement of the world ruler.
Weird.
Do you know what Joe Biden means?
What?
I don't know.
Anyway, Donald Trump warns of possible World War III over Ukraine and Taiwan. And it's funny because we look at the story and it's like, oh, wow, Donald Trump is warning over it. And it's like, everyone's kind of been saying that already. So it's a bit late to the party. But I'm wondering, I guess what I'm wondering with this story is, yes, especially with what we're seeing with the sabotage and this pipeline in Europe, and with China firing missiles over Taiwan, we've never been closer to a major international conflict, at least in our lifetimes. I mean, obviously we had war, but I'm saying like right now. And so I wonder though, are people going to see this? Two questions. What impact will all of this have on the midterms? Are people going to hear what Trump is saying and be like, yes, Joe Biden is causing more war, or he's a terrible leader and he can't handle it. We need someone stronger. Will this result in Republican victory or even a Trump victory in 2024? What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans are very gung-ho in sending Ukraine more money and more money and more money. And it doesn't end. It's just money, printer go burr. How much do you need, Vladimir? It's ridiculous. So you're not going to have the Republicans campaigning off of that. But if everybody knew how much that we're sending over there to prolong a war that could have ended months ago, or in fact, probably wouldn't have even started if Donald Trump had still been president and had a second term. Right.
I don't know about that. Trump did send lethal weapons to Ukraine and did something that Obama wouldn't even dare to do. So Obama was too scared to send lethal weapons there.
But do you think that Russia would have?
It's hard. It's very hard to say.
It's hard to say, but I'll tell you what, it didn't happen when Trump was president. So we know that for a fact.
Well, there was other escalations, especially in the Donbass region and the Crimea region between Russia and the West and Ukraine.
Not to this scale.
Of course. Yeah. No. Now it's tragic. Now the life loss, the severity of the situation is very big. So Trump kind of had a very chaotic, bombastic foreign policy. It was kind of he even described himself as half nationalistic, half globalist. He said that himself, and I think that was very fairly represented with a lot of his actions, which some people cheered on, and some people were like, "What in the world are you doing? Stop it!"
Like with Syria, like when we bombed
Syria, or trying to start a war with Iran. Again, lots of ridiculousness that comes there. But Tim, you asked, will people listen to Donald Trump? No, he's not on social media.
That's not what I mean.
They can't listen to him.
Well, I heard Twitter's going to bring him back. Did you hear this?
Facebook also said maybe they'll bring him back. They announced that they're going to be looking at his... He's truthing, but he's speaking to the echo chamber. He's speaking to his people that are becoming isolated, and people are doubling down on, of course, hearing their ideas regurgitated back to them, rather than, of course, having debates, sparking real conversations, and actually engaging the general public in conversations that actually do matter and affect people and are willing to challenge their beliefs.
But what I mean is, do you think regular people are seeing what's going on right now because of the war escalation and being like, Joe Biden's not doing a good job?
Well, no, because no, Trump is saying what he's saying, but the Republicans, they're not going to go there because they're for the war.
You're talking about the people in Congress?
I like Republican leaderships, like Kevin McCarthy is for it. But, you might have, Josh Hawley, but he's not leadership. He's not Republican leadership. So I'd say the majority of the Republican Party right now, they're talking about domestic issues. They don't want to be like, oh, well, they're Russian, they're Russian sympathizers because they want the war to stop in Ukraine. But you just need to get, I think a lot of people, I don't think that the majority of Americans understand that we shouldn't be there, that we're there under false pretenses, and that we're spending way too much money.
Wow, that sounds familiar. You could that describes American foreign policy for the past 40 years.
Yeah, but it's not something that's going to turn the tide for Republicans.
No, but this pipeline stuff and Taiwan stuff could. People are going to be like, hey, wait a minute.
There needs to be, well, Taiwan, I mean, that's a whole different story. And Joe Biden saying, oh yeah, we're going to I don't think I've ever seen a commander-in-chief say something definitive as, if Taiwan's attacked, we're going to use our troops and we're going to defend them. And then the White House going, no, that our policy hasn't changed. It's not what he meant. Like I've never
4 times.
And this has happened. I've never seen a president walked back so much. If the hey, the pandemic's over, and then everybody in the administration's like, not really. Like, if he's wrong, if he's supposedly the resident of the United States, he should actually be. If his word should be bond. If he says something, that's it. It shouldn't be. I mean, first of all, no matter what he says, he's being undermined. He's being undermined by his own people. So that makes him look weak.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the same thing with Taiwan. I mean, if China wants to attack Taiwan, do you think that they're going to take Biden at his word, or they're going to go, the administration's not going to do anything?
Do you know the news cycle that was the catalyst for Joe Biden's approval rating going underwater?
Yeah, Afghanistan.
Boom.
Yep.
And so, I want to believe that regular people don't care too much about foreign policy, but I think that shows that was huge. The failure of Joe Biden's foreign policy made a huge impact.
Because it was the biggest news story of the year. I mean, everything was that whole thing was covered. And I think if we didn't lose those 13 service members, his approval rating, he might have been able to go, you know what, we got out. Sure, we left a bunch of stuff behind, but we got out and nobody died.
A bunch of people died. He bombed an aid worker that he tried to blame as ISIS-K, and it wasn't even an ISIS-K member. It was a guy providing water to Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh, and the New York Times, they did an amazing wrap up of those events. A great article, great video. But the fact that we just droned a bunch of kids for no reason, it's an ISIS-K analyst or something. They're what was I forget what it was. It was like some kind of engineer or something, and then it wasn't. It was a guy putting water in the back of his car, and nobody was held responsible. That's the thing that kills me. Yeah. Joe Biden goes, well, I'm going to take responsibility if I make a mistake, and then with Afghanistan, are you going to take responsibility? Well, that was weeks ago. It was just 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Come on, man.
People fall from that. It didn't happen. The border's secure. It's very low right now. Nothing is his fault. Like with the gas prices, he's like, I released all this stuff from the strategic petroleum reserve. I did it. I lowered those gas prices, and then they're going back up. And he's like, you gas stations, you need to lower your prices. Stop price gouging.
I'm beyond thinking any of this is a coincidence.
But with Afghanistan, nobody was held responsible for that drone strike, for everything. The terrible pullout. They're celebrating it. Notice that he was like, oh, I did it. I pulled him out. It's like, no, Trump set it in motion, and there were conditions, and those conditions were not met when we left. The Taliban was supposed to actually be in negotiations with the Afghan government. That was supposed to be happening, and it didn't. And Biden pulled out anyway because he wanted a photo op on 9/11.
No, I think it was intentional. I think that partly, but I think it was basically sabotage. You don't flee Bagram without notifying the security forces unless you intentionally want the Air Force Base to fall.
They're too busy trying to get their troops to read anti-racist baby.
But will the voters remember this in this upcoming midterm, in the next coming election? I haven't seen a lot of it. A lot of people are not going to be reminded of it. I think social media is hiding a lot of relative information to this. But when it comes to what's happening right now, I think that has everyone's attention. What's happening in Ukraine, what's happening with Russia is on everyone's purview. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about the possibility of a nuclear war. And according to a Quincy poll, 57% of U.S. voters strongly or somewhat support the U.S. pursuing diplomatic negotiations as soon as possible when it comes to the war in Ukraine. So that's not really that much of a strong number. It's kind of 50-50. 57% is not that much.
But the problem is that the Biden administration keeps saying that we're not going to be part of those negotiations, that that it all is on Zelensky's shoulders.
But that's not true, because the Western world influences the negotiations.
But they keep saying that that's what that they're out of it.
But that's not true.
That's what. Yeah. Well, that's their official thing. That's
but that's not true at all, because obviously this is a proxy war. This is a war between two major global powers that are saying, you know what, we're going to fight it out. We're going to fight it out here in Ukraine, just like they did in Syria, just like they did in many other places around the world, like Libya, and we could keep going on
Vietnam.
And on.
I mean, it's been going on for a long time. Korea.
Vietnam, Korea, the Cold War hasn't really ended. It's kind of prolonged here with a lot of this kind of neoconservative project for a new American think tank policy that really has taken over American foreign policy ever since 2001.
At least it's been 1946 really, with the world liberal economic order. They've been figuring out how to create limited wars all over Earth to keep the war machine strong, but to keep nuclear bombs in the pocket so that they're not used.
Yeah, but again, when it comes to what's happening domestically, how do you think Americans, since you cover a lot of domestic stuff, where is foreign policy on the American priority list according to all the research and all this stuff? Does it come up? Is it even important, or is it an afterthought for the average American?
I think the average American is more worried about their pocketbook and what's happening around the kitchen table, as Joe Biden says.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.